thanks to God, I got up at 8:45, not to an alarm, but to a truck just honking. I would have slept right through the whole thing, and I probably would have got fired. You know what? Which camera am I looking? That one. What's up, guys? Triflix Cast is finally back after a break so long that it made winter break look like nothing. It made summer break. It looked like this whole year looked like nothing because I guess schools have been closed. We got
longest year of all time.
It pretty. I don't know, man. I couldn't imagine being a kid right now and like being out of school. One, I'm extrovert, so I miss the people. But two, like just have free time to do. I mean, homework, but really they're probably just playing games all day. Or, you know, making videos.
That's what, we're just a bunch of kids making videos, right?
Yeah. And speaking of making videos, Cole is back. We've had him on the podcast before, but now he's not a guest.
No.
He's a host.
Oh!
Like
I don't know.
Some crappy radio station. It's like, oh, woo, woo, woo. Yeah,
coming at you.
So he's a host. Why is he a host? Because he's a great public speaker? No, because he's a partner in the company now.
Hey,
maybe. I mean, to the public speaking, but technically,
if we're speaking in legal terms, not so much.
But for the last 9-10 months, we've been working pretty close together. That one.
By this point, it's like a domestic partnership. We've just been working together long enough that it counts.
Yeah, and it's weird because they say like starting a business is like a union or something. So it's like I'm cheating on my business with another person.
I guess that's one way to look at it.
Really. It's like we've all come together as one to push the company. So
that's the idea.
If you don't know who Cole is, go watch his other podcast that we actually had him on. We'll link one of these corners, whatever.
There's a link somewhere. Also,
so we got David running everything. We got Cole here helping co-host. I'm hosting in this new place. This is my downtown studio apartment, literally studio, because here's the studio.
Yep.
And you're probably going to see it a lot more because we don't have anywhere else to record right now,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of decided to, like, when we were going to reboot this, David's here to help out and run the switcher. And so he's going to be picking angles, and what happens. And we're not going to make cuts. We're not going to do anything crazy.
Nope.
But it's going to look beautiful, as do all of our projects.
Yeah.
And it's going to sound good. And you're going to get all three of us every time. So.
Yeah. All three of us every time.
At the same time.
Someone else is here. And then it could be more or less.
Yes, exactly.
Gladly
relinquish.
You guys may be wondering what's up because Benny's not here. Benny actually moved out West Coast. Benny was our editor and actually the guy that set up most of the podcast stuff back for the first like 26 episodes or whatever, however many we're on now. So he was editing almost all those, and he had some good opportunities out on the West Coast, and now he's in Chicago doing photography. It's like every time I call him, he's always like, "Oh, sorry, I'm on a shoot right now." He's doing a lot of freelance work, but I know he was partnered with like an app developer, and he was helping like do the marketing and branding for him. But he's also doing freelance photography for other marketing things.
Dude's good.
Yeah, he's really good. We actually had him come into town for my wedding. Boop. That's a ring, in case you can't see it. Watching on your tiny little phones. I don't know if I was going to segue to your new phone or something, but yeah, check this out.
It looks tiny until you're like, what?
Oh, he's got a flip phone, but like in the cool way.
I'm not going off of a list of things we're doing.
Yeah, we have some talking points apparently, but no. So Ben moved west. Now he's in the Midwest, Chicago, doing freelance work. We love him. Yes. We support him. He came back into town, shot my wedding, doing the photography for that, and
next time he comes back into town, we are going to do something with him for sure.
Definitely.
We got to have him back on. We got to go out and do some shooting. So look for that.
Yeah, we really
Gone,
do.
but not forgotten.
It makes me sad because he was really good at photos. But that's okay because I like, I'm trying to think who, there's, Kanye Coach's Cutz. We just did a commercial for them. I was talking to Coach, and he was saying how he really likes owning a business, not because reasons you may think a business owner enjoys it. He said one of the main things he likes about it is being able to have people come in as a barber. It's like an entrepreneurship. You're coming in, you're renting a booth in some cases. I don't know if they rent, but you come in, you build up your clientele, and he loves it whenever people can build themselves up and show their skill set, and then go off and do their own thing, start their own business. And that's how Upper Cutz, I believe, took over the old Coach's Cutz location. So I was like, is that weird for you that your old employees in your old building? He's like, no, it's awesome because he's really good, and I'm glad he's moving on. So
yep,
same to Ben.
Exactly.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers to that
with some water.
We're stuck together though.
Yeah. I'd like to move somewhere warmer, so I'll have to bring you with me.
Yeah, maybe. That's location too.
So let's just read right through this checklist. New setup, boom, new space.
Talked about it.
Yeah, we're no longer located downtown. The reason was contract went up for renewal, and I kind of wanted to keep it, but then COVID hit, and then last spring, and I was like, why would we keep this if foot traffic's going to none?
Yep.
It's been almost a year. It'd be like a year in like March. So, I mean, it worked out for the best because that's like a ton of rent and utilities that we got to save on just by doing all of our work in-house. Almost all of our clients ask us to go on site to shoot for them. In the last year, we've only had one client ask to use studio space. And we have a partnership with a company that they have studio space and they offered it to us for shoots if we're ever in a bind. So we still have a studio that we can use. We still have a place to hold and store all of our equipment. We have a place to edit. We have plenty of clients where we can go out to their location when they need it.
Yep.
So setup's pretty smooth. I like it. What's next?
Yeah. Well, no, and it's just, I mean, I think that helps like segue into the next thing because, Tristan and I had talked about it as well. He's like, hey, should we hold on to this? And it's like, well, at this point in time when we're really trying to like stimulate growth within the company, if we can cut cost at any point at this point in time that doesn't make sense, then why would you not? Because we both have spaces to work from, and I mean everybody's working from home now anyway. So
yeah, we were just ahead of the curve. Everybody eventually worked from home.
Yeah, right. You see, we just we could tell the future. But studio at one point we're hoping for. We're like that's like a big goal for us.
Well, it's nice because well, I don't know how long I'm going to live in this apartment, at least another year and a half, 2 years. This whole row is like on Washington Street, and there's so many small little shop spaces and so many little like 4 to 2,000 square foot locations that are really affordably priced right now, primarily because of COVID and people don't need the foot traffic. But it's like, if we don't need the foot traffic and we just need space, then it's a good thing for us. So maybe in a year's time, we'll see how COVID plays out. I think that's going to be a big part of it. But at the same time, why would you pay for something you don't need?
Yep. But what I was saying is like, that leads us into like, why are we sitting here together? Like the story behind it, because we haven't exactly just come out and like told everybody kind of like what happened and why Triflix is the way it is now, and structured this way, and why we're going to rise to the top.
That's true.
But I mean, part of that expansion was Tristan and I getting together and starting to talk about some different things. COVID kind of hit, and then things got weird, and I was just sitting there like thinking through like, who do I know, and like how could we somehow expand these businesses? Because I was shooting at that point in time just specifically real estate photography and video, and there were plenty of days where I would go and shoot a house photography and then switch everything over to video and do it all in one swoop, and it's like a 3-hour shoot, and you're just like, you get done, you're like, man, I hope I kept everything together there.
Yeah, I've realized I'm a sprinter, so I'd rather do a project that's like high intensity, kind of stressful, that's like just fast paced, than to do like a really long shoot. I mean, like a 4-hour day isn't too bad for like a shoot, but like a project where it's like 2-3 weeks or something like that, it's like, that doesn't interest me. So the shorter and more concentrated a project is more fun for me. So it's like, whenever you're doing photography and video, if I could come in and just shoot the video, to me, that was really exciting.
It's huge.
And then to have help on set for doing production work was interesting to me. So that was the value I saw of having you join. One, we have 2 different markets that we can pull from that aren't competitive. I mean, yours was very residential for the most part. Like it's individual people and building relationships with them, while mine was more on the commercial side. And then some nonprofit work from here and there, but for the most part, it was cannibalistic. I think it was like whenever you like cannibalize your own market or whatever.
Yep.
So we were able to bring a lot to the table from both sides, with enough overlap that it made sense, but not enough that it was like, why would we partner? We are already doing this on our own.
Right.
So
it was like, how can we expand in those areas and grow in those as well, but like use those other strengths that we have to help grow those that we just don't.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, Tristan is a 10 times better video editor than I am.
Yeah, but at the same time, I can talk to people, but I don't have the drive. It's like I would much rather work on the product than to spend as much time on like customer face and the marketing and the connections. It's like I want to build the personal relationships, but I don't want the business to be involved in it so much. And that's something I'm not good at. And it's like, well, you're much better at that side of things. And I can just go in my corner and edit a video or grab a camera and go direct a shoot or whatever it is, come up with some brainstormed ideas for next projects that we can do or industries that we can hit. So
it's like a very long-winded way of both of us saying that it just like made sense. And we stewed on it for months. Because I pitched it originally, because I was like,
it really was months.
No, it was. I know. It's like we didn't really start. Like I think we started talking like March or April, and then nothing really kind of came to until like August. I mean, and obviously a lot of that time,
probably late July.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff obviously was because of not being able to do much. But it was beautiful because we both said we're like, okay, let's take the time to think about this and like make sure it's the right choice.
Yeah, and that I think around that same time. That was when I was getting married too. So I was like super busy. I was planning a lot, and free time was at a minimum. Yep. But yeah, it gave us a good window of opportunity to like spend more time together, interact, hang out, see if our personalities worked well. I've worked with people before. I've worked in a lot of companies, a lot of industries, anywhere from like engineers, it's a much more analytical relationship in most cases, to like the customer service where everybody's very charismatic and outgoing, and I'm aware of what personalities I work well with and which ones I'm more likely to screw around and not be productive or which ones are a conflicting personality. And it's like if we were in the same room for over an hour, we would probably be at each other's throats. So
very quickly,
over the course of like within a year that we had met, I think we partnered within a year of being introduced to each other.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Because it was at Dane's wedding.
Yep.
And that was 2 years ago now. So
yeah, it's been a hot minute.
And we've been partnered for close to a year-ish. About eight-ish months.
It's a beautiful union.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so it just works. But again, like that's a long-winded way of saying that everything has functioned well so far, and we both have like a drive that's like let's
rename the podcast. This is the long-winded podcast.
I like it.
Where just everything we say is like the most
we're just gonna give you the
convoluted the worst way of saying it. Like it's not even a good story. It's just how long can we track it out?
It's like the other day, I got up and like I had this
we gotta cut it. We gotta cut
my throat, and I was like, man, something's going on. And so I was like, I took a walk. And I had some thoughts in my head, and then, I opened the fridge and poured a glass of water because I was thirsty.
Yeah, who would have thought?
I know, it was so crazy.
We shouldn't do that.
No, that would be horrible.
Is that a segue for anything?
I don't know. Is it? I gotta look at it.
Long win, long plans, I guess. Right? Plan that podcast.
Boom.
I feel like Linus Sebastian trying to come up with segues.
I know, right?
No one's gonna get that. Like maybe 3 people.
Hopefully a larger percentage of our listeners would. I don't know, maybe.
I feel like
we're a bunch of nerds.
Anybody with a YouTube account has at least seen one video recommended by Linus Tech Tips.
I would think so.
They're always on trending because they're always doing something goofy. Regardless, plan for the podcast and company 2021. I think did we not?
We talked about the podcast. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning.
What are we doing this year?
We've obviously
what
said
are we doing, Cole?
I mean, and that is like a good way to kind of go into some of this as well. And granted, okay, this was like an outline I threw together maybe like 30 minutes before I left, okay? Because Tristan's like, I've had a long day, I'm tired, can you put something together? Because he's like, I'm out, it's not gonna flow. And I'm like, no, we got this. And I put together like 6 points. I'm like, maybe it will direct us.
Well, I feel like it's good enough.
Love it. But so, yeah, we've already really talked about the plan. The plan is to grow. And so with that being said, I think, we've done some pretty cool projects recently. And I figured we could talk about that a little bit because we're slowly releasing BTS footage as we go along here. But there is still, I mean, we're talking
BTS, like the K-pop band?
Like,
what's BTS?
Dynamite.
Cool.
It's behind the scenes. Sorry.
Oh, behind the scenes, like what of the shoots? What would I expect to see in a BTS?
Oh my gosh. You expect to see us 3 conversing, shooting, planning.
And Levi Sullivan.
And Levi Sullivan.
What is he? Advisor? Financial advising. What's his company?
He's a financial planner with Northwestern Mutual.
Shout out to Levi. Woo!
I feel like this tree is really close to my face.
This
tree is like right here.
Depth of field.
I get it, but I can like feel it.
It's good for the shot.
I can feel it creeping on me. It's like behind me. It's like, hello. Do we have BTS
for people just
Vitalion?
For people just listening to the audio? There's a tree behind Cole.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's actually it's actually a man in a green screen costume. You wouldn't even know.
You would never know.
Never know.
Do we have BTS from Vitalion?
We do, and it's never going to see the light of day.
I hope it doesn't.
Honestly, it should, because maybe it'd give some light to why that shoot was so bad.
Let's talk about that one. That's really the first major project that we all did together, right? Okay. So,
yeah, I'll run it. I'll give the.
If you could sum it up in one word,
bad. No, it's not bad. It was
a lot.
Teachable.
Yeah.
So the rundown was we enlisted into the 48-hour film challenge, which is you have 48 hours to write, shoot, edit a short film, and you're given some criteria at that like first minute mark, right? And they give you like a name, a prop, and a line that you have to use. And then from the second you get that information, you have 48 hours to turn this around. And this was the first one we have done and directed. We've been hired by Abhishek Abhishek Satam with Manmuji Films last year, well, the year before, and we were hired as the film people. We did DP work and ran the cameras and were ACs, and we won like 3 awards, which was so cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so easy. We'll do it next year on our own.
It'll be awesome.
Turns out it's way harder than I would have ever expected, mainly because this was one of my first directing roles, I would say, as like an actual, I mean, technically anytime you're like operating a camera and giving direction to a set, it's directing, but normally it's like commercial work where it's like a talking head on like an interview, and that's boring. That's easy. It's once you figure it out, it's just a plug and play system. But directing a short film is very different because there's so much more to go. Like, I don't, do you want to explain a little bit? Jump in whatever you want. I'm losing the words I want to use to describe this, but it's very complicated. There's a lot of intermoving parts. It's not just a person sitting down with a script in their head.
Yeah, right.
Normally in an interview, a person's knowledgeable in the subject. In this case, the person finds out what they're going to say on the script about 20 minutes before they say it. Gosh. Because that's how compact everything is. And then there's technical difficulties that can happen with this there, and in our case there was a lot.
But 48 hours is like, it sounds like a lot, but when you're put into that crunch of like, you know, you don't think about it's, oh wait, I have to come up with the concept.
I have to sleep? What?
Right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right. And get a sleep in between it. But you're like, I got to come up with the concept. And then it's like, we've got to like work out the kinks. And then you write the whole thing and then plan, you know, locations and who's going to be there and like who's playing what characters. And then you know, we wrote everything. It was like the last thing we did was write the script. And we were learning our lines like on set. Like it's like, hey, we have like so much daylight and we have like so many locations to get to. So, you know, hey, learn these real fast and we'll be fine.
So it all of that together is to say that is why Vitalion was difficult and what 48-hour film challenge is. There was a lot we learned from it, so that's always good. And I think the best way to learn is just to go out and screw up a lot and make sure you learn from it, reflect on it, think about it. There was one piece of advice that I didn't learn from it, but I was listening to the Corridor cast and they were talking about how everybody watches these tutorials on how to make a short film and how to make things cinematic. And they're like trying to come up with these master classes. I'm excited for them because I want to watch and learn them, but they gave a little bit of information from this master class. And he said, too many people are concerned with like lighting and framing their shot. That's a very important to make it look good. But if you want something that's actually watchable, make sure your story's good. Make sure the story just makes sense. It doesn't have to be complicated. Tell a story that somebody watching's like, yeah, that makes sense. I understand. I could follow the story. I can follow the narrative. I understand why the characters did what they did. You watch Vitalion, in our head,
it made sense at the time.
So much sense. And then you watch it, VFX or not, like there were so many shortcomings due to the timing constraints with the VFX. Even if those VFX were finished by Weta Digital or ILM or some huge film VFX house, it wouldn't have made a difference. We had a lot of ideas and we spent too much on the idea phase, I think. Compared to other teams, I think we did really well, but the teams that beat us, I don't want to like make excuses for why we suck, because it was our first experience and there was so much that we didn't know. I think we did okay, but the teams that beat us, I'm really curious whether or not they did all of the actual like criteria, like if they actually met all the criteria and followed the rules, because my understanding was you weren't supposed to have a script prepared. You shouldn't have had anything prepared. You were just coming into this project blind. And we definitely went in blind.
Completely.
We were so blind. Maybe we put ourselves at too much of a disadvantage.
But we were following the criteria and the rules. I mean, like the way we read everything was very black and white.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, hey, you come up with everything.
Yeah.
In 48 hours.
If you're watching this and you submitted something into the 48-hour challenge and you got placed, know that me thinking that you cheated isn't an insult. It's a compliment because you did so well that it blows my mind you were able to accomplish what you did within the time constraint.
We're not hating on him at all.
No. The one that stuck out to me that I still remember is the one with a kid, like, it's this whole story of a kid getting like abducted and then he gets like these Stranger Things-esque powers. His family is like abusive and this kid like takes off running into this journey. So it's like Stranger Things mixed with Harry Potter or something. He runs off and goes on this adventure.
Gave me like a Signs vibe.
Yeah, gave me chills. Like as I was watching, I was like, hey, this could be a proof of concept for an actual film. And some of the shots were good enough. They could have, I mean, we watched it on a theater screen. I thought they were good enough to pass from a DP perspective. So their story was good. Their cinematography was good. Their audio, I don't remember if it was amazing, but the fact that it's not standing out means it was okay. Because if it stood out, it was either really bad or really good. So if it was passable, that's awesome.
I know that it was more like sound effects. You know, I mean, you're just getting more like ADR type stuff. Then there wasn't a ton of dialogue, if I remember correctly.
It was a narrative.
Yeah.
So they had a voiceover. And
that's right.
I think, how a lot of, learning lesson wise, that's how a lot of these short films managed to get their time constraints, is because we had a lot of issues with syncing audio. But regardless of syncing audio, it's so much easier to go in post and just do a voiceover.
Right.
I'm not saying they took the easy way out. I'm saying they took the smart way.
Exactly. We learned from that situation that was like, hey, we could have probably like planned this in a different way, and like they used their time very wisely.
Well, it wasn't scripted to be a voiceover originally. I don't think it was. I'd have to ask him afterwards, but I believe they actually had some conversation scripted, and a lot of it was going to be voiceover, but due to time constraints, they cut it all. And they just did the voiceover. So it wasn't a lesson that we learned from his because he made the right call. So it wasn't like, oh, we should avoid doing conversation pieces because it's much more difficult to fit in a time constraint. We just saw what they did and we're like, oh, that's cool. We're going to try our own thing and see how well that goes. We had like 4 to 6 people throughout the day. Some people were offering help when available. And again, that's like, it's not just like writing, shooting, or editing. Like, to think about how to fit this in a time constraint, you're getting this at Friday at like 7 p.m. and you're submitting it Sunday 7 p.m. So Sunday all night is pretty much your writing, and you have to have that writing done because you have to have location scouting done. And then I don't know, maybe you split it up or you do the location scouting ahead of time. But to me, that still feels kind of sketch. Like, it seems like that is outside of what I would consider the rules. If you like have the script done ahead of time and you do location scouting, and people are like, well, you know, if they're getting prompts like a name and a prop and like a script or something, or a phrase they have to say, that's going to change their script. It's like, yeah, but some people actually have like 5 or 6 scripts written ahead of time. So then they can just pick the one that works best with the story, and like the prompts that they're given. And, they're smarter. they're just smarter.
Well, I mean, whether it's smarter or more experienced, it's just, you know, who knows? Yeah.
We don't know how many times those people have entered.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that they said we were new, so they were aware, like the people
that's good
judging were aware that we are newer, and they didn't mention that to other ones. So we must have stood out as new people compared to the other people. And that was like during the introduction and the interview before the competition started. So
we doing it again this year?
Yeah.
I say why not, right?
We learned so much. I think we could do dialogue, and I think we could do conversation pieces just because we learned so much of how not to do it. And we made the purchases for certain pieces of equipment that make it easier and resolve nearly all of our problems. One being wires, but I have a feeling that we're going to do it this year, and then we're gonna be like, oh man, I wish I had a wired connection for, like, I don't know, more consistency, like whether that's battery life or audio quality or something.
Right. Yeah, we'll figure that out. I think the biggest thing that pops into my head is, like, moving forward with that is just have the, you know, your setup of people, your crew right? So it's like, hey, we have 5 people on standby that could be actors. You know what I mean? And like, these are the people that are definitely like, this dude's working sound. You know, everybody's kind of got like their role ahead of time. It's like, we're going to enter this contest. I think that's the only thing that I would say is like fair to do pre-shoot.
See, this is why we work well together. Your title's producer, my title's director. I'm like, how can I make the shoot go as like, what can I do during the shoot to make the final product better? And you're like, what could I do to make sure that the shoot goes as smoothly as possible and gets done properly? And I'm like, yeah, I just want it to look good.
Which is fine, because like, but think about it, right? If we were all sitting here going like, we just want this film to look good. Yeah. And then two people show up.
Then we get Vitalion too.
Might as well.
We actually did have like some fans of it that are excited for a sequel, and
my mom was one of those.
Our marketing guru, our marketing expert. No, not anymore. He was, and then he left. Liv.
She did. She loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, heck yeah. We had people that were close in our spheres that were like, hey, you know what? Like, it was cool. And like Levi liked it, you know, I mean, of course he was in it.
I felt so much better knowing that he liked it, because I felt so bad putting it out with him as an actor, because he's not a trained actor. He was just out there to be a good friend. He wanted to support what we were doing. And then I put this, like, as I'm editing him, like, oh man, maybe it's like the Frankenstein syndrome or whatever. It's like, as I'm creating it, I like realize it's a monster. I'm like, I made it. I'm excited that I made it, but at the same time, like, yeah, this ain't good.
We were all on the same page there, though. It's like we sat down to watch everything, and not that we hadn't seen it but it was like when we actually sat down and watched it next to everyone else's, we were like, oh man.
Yeah, I don't know if you do this, but like, just from like the directing point of view, is like, I have this story in my head, and my goal is to create something from nothing, like just from an idea. What can I create? And then what emotions does that invoke in people? So when I'm watching a movie that I created or sketch or whatever, the commercial, I'm looking around the room to see other people's facial expressions. It's like whenever someone like hands you the aux cord or the Bluetooth to play music, and you're just like, do they like it? Is it good? And I'm like looking around, and people are laughing, and I'm like, that wasn't a funny moment. This is bad. They're laughing because it's bad.
It makes me think of the movie that Michael Scott made. So Tristan does not watch The Office, has not watched The Office.
I've seen
it's horrible.
A handful.
That doesn't matter. You're still
there's no redeeming qualities.
The problem is now it lives on Peacock, and now it's
not
gone.
In Canada. If you have a VPN, go to Canada Netflix, and you can still watch it. I know that much, so hopefully that redeems my lack of watching it. So
at least do yourself the favor and like watch that episode, because he makes his own little film, and he like gets super upset with people because they're laughing, and he's like, it's supposed to be serious. So
what's maybe you could explain this to me. I see it a lot on Reddit. What's Scott's Tots?
Oh, I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if David shares this with me or not, but it is the most cringeworthy episode they ever made. I can't watch it. It's bad.
I don't think it's...
So Michael Scott, right? He's the boss.
Yeah.
He's kind of an idiot, and he makes a promise to like kids when they're like in grade school or something. They're like, if you can finish high school, I will pay for all of your colleges. Yeah, like it was like a full class.
Yeah, it's like a couple $100,000.
No, yeah, at least. And so it like all comes down to like, they've been calling you nonstop, and he just ignores them for like years. And so finally they're like, hey, they're going to honor you, like come to the school. And instead of like saying no and come and just being like honest about what's happening, like that he doesn't have the money to pay for their college, like he shows up and they like do this. So I have a dance and a song, and he's like dancing to it, and you're like, dude, like you just promised, and you're about to like tell all these kids that they can't go to college.
I have physical anxiety, like my body's shutting down listening to this story.
No, every time like when that episode comes on, like I've watched it a couple times, but now I just skip it because it's too much. I'm like, I know the whole time that he can't do it, and he's just right up to the end, like to the edge of the end of being like, oh, you know, I can't wait to pay for your college. He's like, and I
see, that's why I like
cringe, man.
I like Last Man on Earth, because I think it's a good balance between like actual comedy and cringe, as opposed to the reason I could never get into The Office was I felt like it was too much cringe. I can't bear. I feel like it's just Last Man on Earth is just a little more grounded, and the characters are a little more redeemable, just enough that I'm like, I enjoy this. But
I get that.
I think to different strokes for different folks. And
it was the earlier episodes too. Like it started real cringy and then kind of like tapered off.
Okay.
As long as Michael was on camera.
Yeah. Speaking of tapered off, I think we beat this conversation to death.
Yeah. Anyways,
I know nothing about this topic.
Yeah. But anyways, watch Vitalion. It's fun. Anyways, like you know the backstory now. Like we tried very hard. We shot very long days. We worked long days. I mean, there was
a whole 48 hours.
A whole 48 hours essentially, and everybody worked their butt off. And like the thing is, at the end of the day, I was really proud of the crew, and it was just like for what we had, it was good. And there were plenty of things. I'm like the shots and just the visual aspects of it, I was impressed with.
Yeah.
That's my favorite scene is the library scene, just saying.
Oh, that one take or whatever.
I thought that was awesome.
I thought everybody just perfectly timed, and it looked beautiful, and the lighting was good enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
it was guerrilla shooting, so we didn't guerrillas it's raw and unpolished, and you're just going out doing what you got to do to get the shot. So we didn't take lights or anything. We were a little understaffed anyways. So Vitalion, it's pretty cool. It was our first try at something, so I guess if you're listening to this podcast, you would probably support us enough to go watch that.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, it's only up from there. That's why you got to start there.
Maybe?
because you're start there and then work your way up.
Your way up to
coaches.
You think coaches is lower than the Audi?
I was so impressed with what you did with that video. I'm just saying,
all right, work your way up to the coaches commercial.
Although at the end, if you started with coaches and then you went to Vitalion, you'd be like,
the heck?
I'd be worried. I'd be like, pay attention to the fact that Vitalion was pre-coaches. It's not after coaches.
Yeah. Watch our stuff in chronological. Go be proud of us,
please.
Watch coaches.
Coaches.
That was our first. I would say professional commercial. We've done a lot of commercial work, with corporate type of work in the commercial industry, but that was our first. We go to a client, or in this case the client actually approaches us and says, hey, I want a commercial, here's what I expect, and then they ask for an invoice, and then they say, do whatever you want, but here's 2 or 3 requirements, and they were very bare. It was use this song, use this actor, and it needs to be this long. And then they gave us complete creative control to go in and shoot this. So to me, that was our first professional shoot.
Awesome.
Just because I thought we had creative control. And to me, that's the difference between working for somebody, because anybody can hire an editor or a camera operator, but to be a director is to have a vision and to not it into reality. And it doesn't mean you necessarily wrote the script. Sometimes you have a writer do that, but you're the person that's in charge of it. And not to diminish directors that do commercial corporate work, I do it all the time, and it's still rewarding. But to me, coaches was just this huge initiative of someone giving us the opportunity to be in control of a project, of their brand, to take up their company time of coming in and interacting with people working as well as clients, and we got to represent ourselves, but also coaches in this case. And
right.
We went in, we had a couple meetings, we wrote up, we did shot lists, we did previs, we went in, we shot everything, we got our audio. We had a hiccup on one of our shots due to lighting. I let him know right away, and he said, no worries, we'll come back, we'll do a reshoot, and scheduled it. And that edit turned out so good.
It's crispy.
I loved it.
I know. When you first sent it to me, Tristan and I send things to each other back and forth just for review and trying to make sure we don't miss anything, which happens from time to time.
Yep.
Usually my spelling errors. But yeah, no, I mean, he had sent out, I think it's definitely, if you go to our Instagram, it's on the highlight for behind the scenes.
Yeah, BTS.
And so shows how he did that cut. There's that first cut in the beginning of it where you see Coach's grandson, and he's sitting there and he's got candy, and he walks into the building, and Tristan does one of those nice little swipe cuts. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is this is probably the first time people are going to know that it's actually a cut, because I wouldn't have known if you didn't tell me.
Yeah, it was
so smooth.
It's a wipe transition. So what you're doing is you have 2 separate shots, and you use an object in the foreground to kind of cover up your cut in between them. So these 2 shots have this object in the way, and because that object blocks the camera for a split second, it just blurs all together, and it looks like this whole shoot was done in one take. And honestly, we did have a one take version where it still looked really good, but Coach did say that he wanted to see more more shots of like what they're capable of as far as like their I don't know what's the
services.
Yeah, their services, right? And I was like, okay, well, I could probably include that in a within the one shot, but I was like, well, I think it would look a lot better. And we actually had it in the previs to have a bunch of like fast-paced B-roll. So between notes of coaches of the client and part of our previs, we were able to work around this. So we got this really fast-paced edit that goes in and out. It's very rhythmical because we wanted to have this vibe of a barbershop that's very chill. So we use this retro color grade that makes it feel more homey or more I don't know, I wouldn't say thematic, but like it just feels, it has a feeling to it that is true to the brand, and that when you go into coaches, really well. It's a chill vibe. It's really laid back. Everybody's kind of having conversation, doing their thing, and the music super good that he picked out for it. It was a really cool learning opportunity, and definitely our first one. Strangely enough, it was also our first one with a kid actor.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of my favorite parts, because I was like, you know, I'm the only one in the crew that has kids. And so I was watching Tristan try to direct this kid, and I think he was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And so I'm like watching this whole thing go down, and of course, like, coach is there and it's his grandson, and yeah, he's kind of trying to help from the behind the scenes as well. And so there's a lot of like conflicting information going back and forth, but it was still, I still just got a kick out of it.
Yeah, I
was like, wow, okay.
I think
not that it was handled bad, it was just funny because you can see the experience with that age group.
Yeah, I think I should have tried to keep it more simple with him, but the thing was, it was difficult for me to explain what I was trying to generate in my head and then convert that to words.
Well, we work with adults 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And this was a first for all of us to deal with this in general. So, I mean, everybody was trying to navigate it. And so, but it was funny, but we eventually, it made sense. We got it together, and the kid did great, but
yeah,
so it was definitely.
That's better than Vitalion. Definitely.
This is true.
But the best shoot that we have out right now is the one we just put out last week.
Yeah.
And that is the unofficial Audi commercial.
That's the internal name for it, and I love that we call it that.
What do we call it? What's the official name?
The official name was the balance between our art and performance.
Oh, cool! I like it.
Yeah. Well, that was you, man. You put that in the title sequence, and so I was like, I like how you did that, and so I figured, I'm like, that's a great use for a title. So I'm like, because again, it's kind of mysterious, right? You see this picture of this car, and then you're like, what? And it's the balance, and you're like, okay, now that sounds really official. That's like, that sounds like something Audi came up with just for like a tagline for a commercial. So it's perfect. So we ran with that, but
yeah, and that was a 2-day shoot. We woke up pretty early and we did all the morning shots to get a lot of that golden sun glow on the corn.
It's beautiful.
We were so lucky too that the corn was still there, because it was like late fall, to the point that it probably should have been taken down already. I don't know if COVID's to thank or blame for that, but regardless, it made our shots look amazing. We got the drone footage that day, and then you followed up and did all the internal shots. But for the external you did some external that day too. All the parked shots were yours.
Yes, all the stationary shots were shots that I had done on a separate day. But then everything that was dynamic and moving, that was the day that we actually had the crew and we went out. So
yeah, so we have that
crazy.
We got that like little commercial or short. I don't really even know what it was. It was more of a commercial than a film.
Well, the best way, like the things I liked, I keep calling it like a demo.
Yeah, it's a demo.
I mean, we've already, and Tristan, you don't even know this, but I've already found some other clients that want to use this for automotive shoots because of it. Because
what a way to find out on a podcast.
I know, right? Hey, by the way, I got some more business.
And you know.
Guess what? When it's time to go shoot again. But it was really, I just we've pushed really hard to try to get proof of concept and demo footage out there, because at this moment in time, it's like, if we can show a client, hey, this is what our potential is, and it's already there and it's down and it's a video, then it makes it a lot easier on us.
Yeah.
And I am a huge like car guy. So I was like, hey, is it okay? Like, this is part of like the thing I would love to do. So can we just try this? And Tristan's like, yeah, just put it together. And he's like, hey, shot list it. And I'm like, what's a shot list?
So he's like researching basically how to be the writer. And I mean, that's a little bit of a director role too. But either way, you did a great job.
It worked. It worked out well.
And it was such a good outline, because I reviewed it maybe the night before, and it was clear enough that I had an idea of what shots we needed. And then a little bit of the order that I wanted to use on the edit. And the way that we got a lot of those shots was we had Levi Sullivan. Shout out to the sponsor once again.
Levi Sullivan, financial planner, Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah. Back to your scheduled program. He brought his Jeep out, and I got to hop in it, and we took off the top panel and we opened up the rear hatch for some shots. So those are two different types. We used the rear hatch for any of the chase or follow shots where we're ahead of the Audi, and then we used the top panel so I could pop my head up and then follow the car for passing shots. We didn't do any shots where we followed the Audi though, and that was a regret in the edit.
I think we had one thing.
We had one take of it, but it was super windy, and the shot started getting very unstable.
Yes, yeah, and that was, again, like, this was a learning experience for us, because it also is one of those things where we're learning that so many things can happen that you can't predict. Mm-hmm. Because up until literally that night pre-shooting, we had a crew set up and ready, and then we ended up with like half those people the next day, but we adapted, made it work, and everything flowed really nicely. And this was the first time Tristan had ever, had to hang the camera out of a car so he could get these shots. So I mean, we knew kind of what we needed to do, and so for us to be so like new to that process and put it together as good as we did, I'm like, I can only imagine now that we have experience. So,
well, now that we have experience, we can learn,
and
make better decisions. And
as soon as the snow stops, we'll be able to go and shoot our next one. So
why not do it in the snow?
Well,
because I'll fall out of a Jeep.
Not that, because the car does not fare well in the snow.
Yeah, I'd make for some good like drifting videos or something.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, it's a Porsche, I'm hoping.
Ooh,
that's what I was told. So I'm hoping that ends up. I mean, we're talking it's like a $200,000 car. So
yeah, I would hate to get like.
I'm like, I was not put that in the snow with the salt and everything.
Yeah, I was thinking. My first thought was salt.
I know, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had a Porsche, I'd take it out in the snow. But
yeah,
that'd be if it was mine. It's not mine.
I'm a Fable guy.
Yeah, no. I need a back seat.
Yeah, so I mean that was our big 3 shoots that we've done in the last year.
Yeah,
that are public, because we do a lot of like private enterprise stuff for corporate work. So it's like it's either not interesting for viewers or it's NDA, so it's like it's not going out public. Well,
that's kind of half the battle for us is, Tristan and I have been really working on the organizational part of it, so that it's like, hey, we have time for those internal projects that we need right now, and figuring out when these things work together. So it's just, we spent like 6 months of just organizing the company and redoing the website. So when you're doing that, it's hard to make content.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, we have not announced that at all. I mean, maybe it was put on Facebook or Instagram or something, but new website. We spent a long time, almost our entire catalog of videos for clients have been listed up there, unless it's like a long format that we're having hosting issues there. But so like weddings are like a half-hour podcasts are over that. Those videos won't be listed, but all of our other client shoots, our photography and all that's going to be up there. All the gear that we shoot with, services that we offer, booking and all that other stuff. But it looks really good. I love it because I spent like 600 hours, and we also have that BTS out.
Yeah. Yep. The last day that Tristan and I worked together to just kind of like finalize some ideas and make some new graphics. And that was kind of the end of it. But David made us do the whole thing by ourselves, and that made it so much more difficult.
So I'm gonna say
you didn't even acknowledge it.
I didn't even see it. It was out of the corner of my eye. What's up?
No, I meant like he made us do the website all by ourselves. Like,
oh, well, I mean,
David had a huge hand in the website. I'm just messing with David.
I mean, if it's true, but in this case, it's not. He did a ton of work.
David was a huge part of that.
He learned so many things about a piece of software he vows to never use again.
I was like, he's here.
What a segue. David's here. You already know that, but you don't know what he does for the company still. He is our efficiency manager with a little IT cap on top.
Yep.
He makes things run smoother, better, faster, stronger in every way about this company.
It keeps us in line.
He gets us.
That's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, the more efficient we are, the better the company runs.
It's true.
So he primarily focuses in tech related things, whether that's like managing the server or learning new technical aspects of the equipment we're using, firmware updates, running technical things like switchboards, which he seems to take a liking to. So yeah, his role with the company has not been reduced. It's actually been increased, but his time has been reduced because he's a big boy with a big boy job somewhere far away
for now.
But he works from home, so he still gets to be local. He still gets to hang out and help us when we really need it. But also he hangs out when he wants to, because we're all friends.
We're just a bunch of friends. We don't just work together. We're friends.
We're friends. Some of us just get paid,
right?
I mean, if we
not us.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Levi Sullivan actually wants a sponsor.
Like, hey, by the way, no need to record an ad because we already did.
Yeah. We already threw you in there, so we'll just send the invoice.
Yeah, he'd probably just pay it.
Yeah, we've got a couple local companies that we manage advertising for, and therefore we have relationships with the people that advertise with them. So I think if we put out enough content that's quality with the target demographic and we're hitting certain numbers, yeah, sure, let's reach out. We got plenty of people we can reach out to
one day.
Speaking of reaching out to people, ooh, you're wondering when you can watch this, right? You want to reach out. We want to reach out to you, right? You get some podcasts in your life.
Yeah, like we haven't seen them in a while. And are they going to keep releasing podcasts? When are they going to release a podcast?
What happened to the creative people? I thought you were promoting local creative people. I still want to do that, okay?
We're still going to do it.
I want to do that when I have time. That's when we're going to put...
when I have time for you.
Okay, so the real story is we stopped bringing guests on the show because of COVID. That was it. We still technically had our studio at the time. There was no reason for us to stop doing podcasts other than we didn't want to put people at risk. We didn't want to put ourselves at risk. We have to make money, because when you're self-employed, insurance is expensive.
This is true.
So we can't afford to miss a day. So we have to be selective with who and when we bring things in to do shoots. So we're back because we can riff. We can talk about projects. We can have conversations that we think are meaningful about our industry, what we're learning, how we're growing, and what our future plans are. And the whole point of this one at the moment is to connect with us, not as a brand, but like just to see what's Triflix doing, and whether or not their stories are interesting. I mean, if we're telling stories that about our experiences and you guys think they're something to play in the background when you're doing dishes, then go for it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I'll probably listen to this later just to see how silly or wrong we were about things.
Well, I'm hoping that this is also an opportunity for clients, people who know us at like an arm's length.
No. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, we're still open to bringing on guests. We want to continue the initiative of this podcast as it started, which was to promote local and creative entrepreneurs in the area, people that are trying to make the difference in the community, because I think this is another way for us to give back. growing up, I always thought it was weird how creative people didn't get publicity until after they were famous. It seemed really weird to me, especially whenever they were talented the entire time. So I'm like, well, if we were, bigger and we had people in our area that we knew of that were talented, it's like, let's bring them on earlier. Let's bring them on before they're famous, while they're still developing. Let's help jumpstart their opportunities in life, so they don't have to wait until like their mid 30s with kids, making sacrifices between like family and like their passions. We want to offer that opportunity as soon as possible to them, so those doors open up, and that way they don't have to make those sacrifices in life of between this or that. They can have both, and that's something we've learned from some of our mentors and our people that we look up to. Is they gave us opportunities at a younger age than they received. And now it's like, I'm 24 and you're 28. So it's like, let's find someone younger than us and give them opportunities.
Yes.
Segue to our maybe intern. I haven't seen him in a while, but we're giving him an opportunity, and he's pretty cool. I like him. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah. No, I believe me, it crossed my mind. His name is Spencer, and he's local here in Columbus. Yeah. He sent us an email and he's really just trying to get some hours for an assignment for his online school. He's going to Full Sail. Yeah. And so we're going to help him out with that. But, again, to follow along with what Tristan just said, our idea is to continue to grow relationship wise with people in the community and beyond that. And hopefully maybe there's even opportunities for Triflix as we go on further, that we'll have that meaningful backing and that growth that allows us to bring people onto our crew as well.
Yeah.
And now we have that opportunity to start those relationships. So
yeah. And it's not all filmmaking, someday we might need an accountant.
Ooh.
Or someone that administrative, runs all the emails and the networking. It's like, whew, that's cool to me. Someday
I agree. So hopefully this also gives you guys an opportunity to get to know us better too. So
yep. The podcast,
we're pretty awesome.
I think, let's say every other week. We're putting it out every other week. If you get it more often than that, just be happy.
It's a bonus.
That means you can do the dishes every week instead of every other week. And why is that a bad thing? Maybe you do the vacuuming one week and then you do the dishes the next week. I don't know. It's a bonus episode. So we're going to aim for every other week. If we get it out more often than that, then excellent. That's cool. It also depends on if we have stories to talk about. I don't want to force an episode if we don't have any updates.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If we haven't had any big shoots, if we haven't had any stories that we think are worth addressing, then put it off. Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna go make stories real quick. Let me
go. Funny. I totally forgot.
To do.
I had one that I wanted to tell.
Oh, well, maybe we give them a little teaser.
Yeah, that's a teaser
for next episode.
Tristan and I are actually we're gonna come up with a couple more, because I know we have more. We're gonna have a discussion about the things that we've done on set or during a shoot that were kind of jank, but it was a way that we got through it.
Oh my gosh, are you gonna tell them?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
why not? At this point, it's hilarious.
Get ready for the crappy tripod. Yeah. Get ready for it.
So there you go.
So,
that's your motivation to listen or watch the next one.
Yeah. And where can they listen? Everywhere you can listen. If you want to watch the podcast, it's on YouTube,
Facebook and Instagram.
We're gonna put it everywhere. And maybe someday we'll figure out how to get it on our website.
Yeah, one day.
So we got, the podcast is mostly just going to be us riffing for a little bit, telling stories until we feel that it's safe, or until people want to come on as guests and are willing to be on, given COVID and all that stuff.
We might do a call-in too.
We can do a call-in. I don't see why not. Every other week, maybe more often than that if you're lucky, or if we have more stories to tell. And you can get it anywhere you hear the podcast. It's going to be on YouTube. And
part of my job is social media, so you're going to see plenty of me, and I'll be talking plenty about what we're doing. So if you want to stay in the loop, Facebook and Instagram, those are your top two. That's where you're going to see everything. And I'll always give out an update pre a release of a podcast. So
yeah, you're managing this way better than I ever did.
Mic drop. That's why we're partners.
Yeah. Roll the outro. That's our ending. That's our ending.
I'm good with that.